What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and to the Tow Behind Mower series. Our $100 plastic gas tank and other parts just arrived moments ago. So I wanted to go ahead and turn on the camera and we'll kind of lay out our fitment before we start assembling things. So one thing I know for sure that we had to do, I actually forgot until now, but we need to turn this. I'll grab a crescent wrench and turn our oil drain up just a little bit, because as you can see, it's turned down to where the motor won't sit flat. So let me run and grab a crescent wrench and we'll do that quick. Nice, no big deal on that. So the first thing I wanted to take a look at, obviously we got our battery box here. Unfortunately, they had a cooler, kind of sleeker looking one, and it was sold out. So I had to go with this one. It's a little clunky, but we're kind of looking for form over function on this machine anyway. Also got our pulley, which I'm hoping fits. And then, of course, our $100 gas tank. So what I wanted to do is, I'll open up the pulley here. Start by seeing if I measured correctly whether it fits or not. I think it's a 1/4 inch bigger OD than the original pulley. Shouldn't be too big of a deal, as long as there's enough slack in the belt for it not to run all the time. But I did that because the only other option that was exact to size was a different style of pulley where it didn't have this strong shoulder and set screw, and so that wouldn't have worked for us because we have to have that. Alright, let's see if I can tip this thing back one-handed without knocking it off. So let me set you here a second. I don't have much to set you on at the moment. Hold on one second, sorry. Okay. So the pulley is perfect. It slides right on. All we need to do is pick up a key. I think I've got a key that size in my key drawer, and lock it on. So that's going to be great. And what we'll do is take the side panel off to set the height so that the belt's tracking appropriately, and then we'll lock down the set screws. So item number 1, check. Let's move on to the $100 tank. Okay, let's see if we can do this without a knife. I think I mentioned on the last episode what I'm going to do to save about $25 or $30 is make my own mounting bolts for this. What it is basically a head bolt with a stud sticking out of the end. And so the way that it mounts is the 2 studs go through these 2 slots on this mounting bracket, and then the other end of the bolt is an existing head bolt. So what we're looking at should be this head bolt and this head bolt. We'll just get a stud welded onto the end of them, maybe like a 5/16 stud or something. So let's see, moment of truth, whether this is going to line up appropriately. Oh, that's great. Looks like it's going to be perfect. So let me just kind of set that in there to mock it up for looks. So that's how that looks. I had kind of misspoken on the last episode, thinking that these 2 bolts were the mounting bolts into the where the intake is at. That's close to the right idea, but obviously that's not exactly how it works. So then what we would do is, this is meant to run with a fuel pump, because this engine was originally a gravity feed setup. It had the tank up above it, and then that came down, so there was no need for a fuel pump. We're going to need to add a fuel pump, and I've got one. I just need to kind of look around and make sure I've got all the right fittings to make it work. But we'll just rob a fuel pump, and we can go take a look at my engine pile. And so what this will do is run up. Those fuel pumps have 3 barbs on them. One is your pulse barb that runs off of engine vacuum. Or I shouldn't say engine vacuum, because it's not really what it is, but it's your PCV line, because the engine is going up and down with air, in and out, in and out, in and out. as the piston moves. And what that's doing is actuating a diaphragm pump to make it pump. So what you've got on those 3 barb pumps is your pulse line, your in and your out. So this would be our in, because it's supplying our fuel. Our out would come back down and run to the carburetor, and then our pulse line typically runs off of the valve cover, I think. I can't remember exactly for some reason on camera right now. That, or it runs off of there's a little pulse option on the intake, but we can go over and take a look at what I've got. Looks like that's bent. Get that fixed. Okay, so next thing to take a look at is our battery box. What I hadn't considered is that now that we have this tank up here, that's taking up some space where our battery box might have gone. So I hope we didn't screw that up. We obviously can't put it over on this side because we've got exhaust. I don't think it'll fit in here, and I don't want to put it down here because we've got spinning blades. I suppose we could, and then we could run a carriage bolt up from the bottom, so it's no big deal. And that might be kind of the slickest way to do it, is just have it sit down here. Actually, I kind of like that. I like that it keeps the height lower, keeps it away from the exhaust, and it keeps it off of these panels where if we need to remove those to work on the belt or replace it or do whatever, it's not in the way. So that's one option. Right in here, either direction. That's kind of slick. That would keep the cables the shortest, because what we would do is put our solenoid probably right in there. I even had thoughts of mounting the solenoid to the box, but there's really no reason to do that. So if we mounted that there, we'd have a nice short positive to here and positive to there on the starter. We'd have our key switch right here, and it would all be nice and short. If I ran it over here for no reason, we're having to crisscross all of our cables. So I think the obvious answer is to go here and have our battery on the same side, so everything is nice and easy. So that's kind of how things are shaping up at the moment. So remaining items, welding up the mounting bolts for the fuel tank and a fuel pump. Those are the remaining parts that we need to come up with, other than electrical, a key switch and some cable. So let's go over to the engine pile over there, and I'll kind of point out what my thoughts are on the fuel pump. Okay, welcome to the graveyard. So a lot of what I have out here are these Briggs V-twins, and the way that these operate is right off of the valve cover here. There's a hole, and that runs up, and that runs the pump, and then your inlet and outlet there. That's not going to work for us because we don't have a V-twin with this style of valve cover, so we can't just swap the valve cover, because on a 1-cylinder it's actually wider. It's a different shape altogether. We could drill a hole in it, but then I don't have that correct length of line to run. So let me try and find a single cylinder with the same design. Here's a single cylinder. What would that have been? It's hard saying with the shroud and everything missing. Here's a single cylinder Intech. Another 2-cylinder, that's that short line I'm talking about. Fuel pump sits right here, but unfortunately not an option. So let's see what this Intech had going on. That was also gravity feed, because where the pump would normally mount, there's factory plugs in there. So this one was not in use. I might need to pull up a diagram, because for some reason at the moment I can't remember how that works. There's another V-twin valve cover looking at us. Yeah, I might do that. I'll get a number off of this, as well as our engine over on the tow-behind mower, and we'll do a comparison to see how these were run exactly, see if we can make it happen. Alright, I don't want to bore you with too much looking around on the computer, but this is the parts diagram for that engine that we were just looking at out in the pile, and I'm reminded now of the way that it's done. So the oil dipstick tube has a small barb on it right there. That's where the vacuum is had for the fuel pump on that style. So I want to go back out and look at two things. One would be whether the one out there in the pile has that and it's capped off, or if it's just got the standard style. Then I also want to look at our Intech on the mower and see if it has it. And then in either case, we'll come back in and compare the part number for that. It won't matter whether it's this one or that one. This one's obsolete at the moment. But we'll compare this 697184 from the parts pile to our mower engine to make sure it's going to fit. And we may end up having to order one. But anyway, we'll head out there and take a look. Well, sadly, taking a look here, this one does not have the inlet. That's one Intech. That one does not have the inlet. And then I've got that other Intech we were looking at over here. Also does not have it. So I'm going to dig around a little bit more, but I'm worried that I might not have it because it's a pretty unique option. I do feel pretty good that it would fit, and we can confirm this on the parts diagram, but just taking a look at it, here's a look at this one, and then I'll take you over. I'm going to cut the camera, but I'll take you over to compare to our new engine. And here's that comparison to our engine. So let's go in and confirm with part numbers, and we'll go ahead and end the video after that point. Hopefully it matches up and we can just get one ordered and it won't cost $100. So I'll see you inside for one more look at that. I don't know why, but every diagram is blocking me out from viewing the dipstick tube with the barb on it. I guess if we had to, we could make our own. Drill a hole and thread in a plastic barb, put some epoxy on it, that kind of thing. If I can't get one, that's what we'll do. Anyway, here's on our engine. It's a 697184, and on the parts pile engine that has the barb option, 697184. So that's going to be the ticket. I'll do some digging around and try to find one with a barb cheap. If it's either unavailable or too expensive, we'll make our own, and I'll show you that if that's the case on the next video. So we're getting close, but as with anything, it takes time trying to get all these parts to work together. So thanks a lot for watching, and leave any comments down below if you have any ideas or like what you're seeing. And other than that, make sure to like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you on the next video.